What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be changing out a motorcycle tire. Here's what I'm going to be using. A tire spoon, something to break the bead, some rim protectors, and some soapy water, and a valve tool. Also a yoga mat, which you can see here. This is actually what I use to work on. It works best for me. Next is a Bike Master heavy duty tire spoon. Definitely invest in a heavy duty one. This one has lasted me a long time and it makes it a lot easier. And then the Bead Pro from Motion Pro. This is to crack the bead. And I'll show it to you here. So that end breaks it, and then the other side is additional tire spoon. So I'm going to be using 3 total. And now the rim protectors, I have 2 different types here. These are the Motion Pro. And then the others are the Bike Master, which I actually prefer these ones because they stick on better. The other ones tend to fall off. And then my soapy water, it's just dish detergent mixed. And then my valve tool here, which helps take the air out a lot faster. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is I need to get all the air out. So I'm going to go ahead and take the valve cap off, and then I'll take my valve tool and just go ahead and unscrew that Trader valve. Now if you can see the saran wrap and rubber band that's covering my bearing, I do that to kind of just keep all the dirt and any sort of moisture out. Also, a thing to point out is you want to pull that sprocket carrier off if you're doing the rear tire, of course. It makes it a lot easier mounting it and when you go to balance the wheel. So now that I have all the air out of it, I'm going to go ahead and set it down here and grab my soapy water. And I'm just going to start spraying it around the bead. And you can use as much as you want because we are going to be cleaning this rim after we get the tire off. And this makes it a lot easier to crack that bead as well and to get the tire off. Now I can grab my Bead Pro. Now a lot of times this won't work on the very first try. You will have to kind of work the tire in a little bit. I think in this video I end up doing it, I think 3 or 4 times before I finally get that bead to pop. So what I'll do is I'll just consistently kind of work it around the tire. So each time I'm doing this too, more of that soapy water is getting down into the bead, making it easier as well. And you want to be careful when you're doing this too, because if you over lever it, it will pop out and scratch your rim. And I just kind of do the bead in a couple different spots, and then you'll finally get it to fall. Now this one was being extra stubborn, so I went ahead and just started pushing on the outsides of the tire as well after I do it here. So just like this, I'll just kind of work my way around. And what I'm doing is actually moving the rubber just a little bit to get that soapy water down in there. And now I should be able to crack it. And right there, it just slid off. Now all you need to do is just work it around the wheel, and the rest of it will just pop out with your hands. And now that I'm finished with that side, I'll go ahead and flip it over. We're going to go ahead and spray it down with the soapy water. And like I said, you can use quite a bit of this. We're going to wipe down this rim before we even install the other tire. And then we'll go ahead and put in the old bead breaker. Now just because you got the other side out, it doesn't make this side any easier, unfortunately. And when you're kind of levering it like this, you'll still hear some kind of air leak out, but the bead is still in place. So it actually has to pop off, and you'll feel it. It'll sink down quite a bit. There. And I can just finish it off here. And now the tire is completely free of moving. So now we can start on removing it. So first I'm going to put on my rim protectors. I usually situate these between 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. Like I said too, if I had the choice, I would have just bought more of the Bike Master ones, which are the ones with the tether. Nothing against Motion Pro, because I love the rest of their tools. And now I'm putting my knee on the tire there, and what that's doing is it's pushing the tire down to the smaller part of the rim. So the valley of the rim is smaller in circumference. And now I can start the tire, and then I'm going to hold this spoon in place and make sure you don't lever it onto that brake rotor. And then work my way down. And there we go. Pop, it is done. And so I can do the rest by hand now. And now you'll notice I'll take out 2 of the protectors, but I'll leave 1 of those on. And that's because a lot of times you can just push the rim out at this state, but sometimes you do have to give it a little nudge with one of the spoons. So I left that rim protector in there for that reason. So I'll grab my trusted spoon, pop it in there, and the rim will free. There we go. So I can put that off to the side, and now I want to just wipe down this rim. So you're going to get some moisture in the actual air that you put into the tire, but you'd prefer not to have that in there. So just try to get as much of it off as you can. And I'll show you when I'm putting the new tire on that I'm putting the rag on the other side so I'm not getting any of that soapy water down into the rim, or at least not that much. So on the tire you'll notice a little white, yellow, or red dot. And what that is from the manufacturer, that is saying that's the lightest part of the tire. So you're going to always align that with the valve right here. So I always start with the wheel with the valve pointing at me, and then I'll put the tire down in place and I'll start it there so that when I do get it installed, it'll stay in that place. Now the very first part of the tire you can usually just press on like this. So you only have to tire spoon one part of this. It's a little different than when you take it off. And now I'll start the tire by putting it down into that little valley. And then I'm going to just put my knees on that. And then just start working my knees up to hold as much of that in place as I can. Until I get to the spot where now I need the tire spoons. So I'll put my rim protectors back on. And then grab the old spoons. Towards the end of this video, I'll give you some tips and tricks to kind of make this go a little smoother. If you notice, that tire I'm putting on is actually a takeoff from one of my races. So it has a race on it, but it's still perfect for practice. So it's still got a lot of life for practice. So I usually start with my inferior spoons first, and then do the final one with the big heavy duty. Unless you have a couple heavy duty ones, that's even better. But I think this combination with one tire spoon and then the Motion Pro bead breaker works the best, because you can use the tools for 2 different things. And now I'll go ahead, and I believe this is the spot. Yep, I I was being a little too aggressive, so I'm too far over. You can't get super far away from those other tire spoons. So I just have to move in a little closer. And I should be able to get that tire down in there then. And there we go. And now it's pretty much on except for this little bit right here. And now it's done. So the new tire's on. I'll go ahead and take the protectors off. And now we need to air it up. So a couple different trains of thought on this. You can leave that valve out, which works pretty good for setting the bead because it takes a lot of pressure sometimes. I put mine in and try it with the valve in first. That way I don't have to let all the air out and repump it up. So I'll go ahead and put this little valve back in and screw it down. And then if you could see, I'm just using that little small portable Craftsman air compressor. And I'm going to go ahead and hook that up, and I'm going to set it to the max PSI. The manufacturer does not recommend that you go over that PSI. I know people that do. I don't think they've had any adverse reactions, but still it's kind of recommended. So I just try to do it to that maximum PSI. And then if I can't get it, while this tire's pumping up, I'll give you some of those tips now. If I can't get it to do at the max PSI, what I'll start doing is start working and leaning on the tire while it's filling to try to seal that air gap, because you'll kind of hear some air kind of hissing out. And then I'll also use some more soapy water down in the bead to try to help that. And if that still doesn't work, we're going to have to put heat into the tire. And now you can do that a couple different ways. You can either put it out, in the sunlight. You can use a heat gun or a hair dryer. Or my preferred method is I have a balance stand. So I'll actually put this wheel on the balance stand and put one of my track tire warmers on there and just have it warm up the tire, and that makes it a lot more pliable. And you can use this when you're trying to take off the tire and install the new one. It works great for that as well. So eventually both of these beads are going to pop. It's a very loud noise. I've done about 20 of these in the last year, and it still scares me every time that bead pops into place because it's like a gunshot sound. So that's kind of all there is to it. I do have a follow-up video to this that I'm going to be posting on balancing this wheel. Of course, that's going to be part of the job if you're doing the tires yourself. It's very easy to do. You just have to make sure you have the right tools to do it. And then you can do all your tire changes in the future. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I will get back to you. And be sure to look out for my follow-up video. And thanks for watching my video.